Deindustrialization or deindustrialization is a process of social and economic change caused by the removal or reduction of industrial capacity or activity in a country or region, especially heavy industry or manufacturing industry. It is the opposite of industrialization. Multiple interpretations. There are multiple interpretations of what this process is. Cairncross and Lever offer 4 possible definitions of deindustrialization. A straightforward decline in the output of manufactured goods or in employment in the manufacturing sector. This, however, can be misleading because short-run or cyclical downturns may be misinterpreted as long-run deindustrialization, a shift from manufacturing to the service sectors, so that manufacturing has a lower share of total output or employment. This may also be misleading, however, as such a shift may occur even if manufacturing is growing in absolute terms, that manufactured goods comprise a declining share of external trade, so that there is a progressive failure to achieve a sufficient surplus of exports over imports to maintain an economy in external balance, a continuing state of balance of trade deficit that accumulates to the extent that a country or region is unable to pay for necessary imports to sustain further production of goods, thus initiating a further downward spiral of economic decline. Colonization of different Asian countries by European powers between 18th–20th centuries led to fall in manufacturing and further fall in global GDP share of Asian countries, mainly India, China and Southeast Asia. Explanations. Theories that predict or explain deindustrialization have a long intellectual lineage. Rothorn argues that Marx's theory of declining profit may be regarded as one of the earliest. This theory argues that technological innovation enables more efficient means of production, resulting in increased physical productivity, that is, a greater output of use value per unit of capital invested. In parallel, however, technological innovations replace people with machinery, and the organic composition of capital increases. Assuming only labor can produce new additional value, this greater physical output embodies a smaller value and surplus value. The average rate of industrial profit therefore declines in the longer term. Rothorn and Wells distinguish between deindustrialization explanations that see it as a positive process of, for example, maturity of the economy, and those that associate deindustrialization with negative factors like bad economic performance. They suggest deindustrialization may be both an effect and a cause of poor economic performance. Peitles and Antonikis suggest that, to the extent that manufacturing is characterized by higher productivity, this leads, all other things being equal, to a reduction in relative cost of manufacturing products, thus a reduction in the relative share of manufacturing. Moreover, to the extent that manufacturing firms downsize through, for example, outsourcing, contracting out, etc., this reduces manufacturing share without negatively influencing the economy. Indeed, it potentially has positive effects, provided such actions increase firm productivity and performance. George Reisman identified inflation as a contributor to deindustrialization. In his analysis, the process of fiat money inflation distorts the economic calculations necessary to operate capital-intensive manufacturing enterprises, and makes the investments necessary for sustaining the operations of such enterprises unprofitable. Institutional arrangements have also contributed to deindustrialization, such as economic restructuring. With breakthroughs in transportation, communication and information technology, a globalized economy that encouraged foreign direct investment, capital mobility and labor migration, a new economic theory's emphasis on specialized factor endowments, manufacturing moved to lower-cost sites and in its place service sector and financial agglomerations concentrated in urban areas. The term deindustrialization crisis has been used to describe the decline of labor-intensive industry in a number of countries and the flight of jobs away from cities. One example is labor-intensive manufacturing. After free trade agreements were instituted with less developed nations in the 1980s and 1990s, labor-intensive manufacturers relocated production facilities to third-world countries with much lower wages and lower standards. In addition, technological inventions that required less manual labor, such as industrial robots, eliminated many manufacturing jobs. See also, jobless recovery, reindustrialization, Post-industrial society, urban decay, industrial revolution, the end of work, Rust Belt, Dutch disease. References. Further reading, Afonso, When the Export of Social Problems is No Longer Possible, Immigration Policies and Unemployment in Switzerland, Social Policy and Administration, Volume 39, No. 6, pages 653–668, Baumol, W.J. Macroeconomics of Unbalanced Growth, The Anatomy of Urban Crisis Unregistered Trademark The American Economic Review, Volume 57, No. 3, Boole, H.A. What is the impact of international trade on deindustrialization in OECD countries? Unregistered Trademark Flash No. 2004-206 Paris, CDCIXIS Capital Markets http, and Wikipedia Urgindex php. Title equals Deindustrialization and Action equals Edit and Section equals 21, Brady, David, Jason Beckfield, and Wietzor 2007. OE The Consequences of Economic Globalization for Affluent Democracies Annual Review of Sociology 33, 313-34. Bluestone, B. and Harrison, B. The Deindustrialization of America, Plant Closings, Community Abandonment and the Dismantling of Basic Industry. New York, Basic Books, 1982. Cairncross, What is Deindustrialization? Pages 5–17 in, Blackaby, F. Deindustrialization, London, Pergamon, Cowie, J., Heathcote, J. and Bluestone, B. Beyond the Ruins, The Meanings of Deindustrialization Cornell University Press, 2003. Central Intelligence Agency. 2008. The CIA World Factbook, Feinstein, Charles 1999. OE Structural Change in the Developed Countries During the 20th Century Oxford Review of Economic Policy 15, 35–55. Fuchs, via The Service Economy New York, National Bureau of Economic Research, Lever, WFA Deindustrialization and the Reality of the Post-Industrial Site Unregistered Trademark Urban Studies, Volume 28, No. 6, pages 983–999, Goldsmith, M. and Larson, H. Local Political Leadership, Nordic Style. International Journal of Urban and Regional Research Vol 28.1, pages 121–133. Koistein, David. Confronting Decline, The Political Economy of Deindustrialization in 20th Century New England. Koistein, David. Business and Regional Economic Decline, The Political Economy of Deindustrialization in 20th Century New England Business and Economic History Online No. 12. Krugman, Paul. Domestic Distortions and the Deindustrialization Hypothesis. NBER Working Paper 5473, NBER and Stanford University, March 1996. Kucera, D. and Milberg, W. Deindustrialization and Changes in Manufacturing Trade, Factor Content Calculations for 1978–1995. Review of World Economics 2003, Volume 139, 4. Lee, Chilsung 2005. OE International Migration, Deindustrialization and Union Decline in 16 Affluent OECD Countries, 1962–1997 Social Forces 84, 71–88. Logan, John and Sonstrom, Todd. Beyond City Limits, Urban Policy and Economic Restructuring in Comparative Perspective, Temple University Press, 1990. Matsumoto, Jilantaro 1996. OE Deindustrialization in the UK, A Comparative Analysis with Japan International Review of Applied Economics 10-273-87. Matthews, R.C.O., Feinstein, C.H. and Dilling-Smee, J.C. British Economic Growth Oxford University Press, OECD Stat Extracts, Peitles, C. and Antonikis, N.A. Manufacturing and Competitiveness, The Case of Greece Unregistered Trademark Journal of Economic Studies, Volume 30, No. 5. pages 535 Euro 547, Reisman, G. Profit Inflation by the U.S. Government, Roger Doyle, Deindustrialization, Why Manufacturing Continues to Decline, Scientific American Magazine, May, 2002, Rothorn, Robert E. A Review of W. J. Baumol, S. A. B. Blackman and E. N. Wolf, Productivity and American Leadership, The Long View. Review of Income and Wealth 38, 475 Euro 495 doi, 10.1111 per Joule 1475-4991.1992 TB00456X. PDF. Rothorn, Robert E. Wells, J.R. Deindustrialization and Foreign Trade. Cambridge, Cambridgeshire, New York, Cambridge University Press. ISBN 9780521263603. Rothorn, Robert E. Ramasamy, Ramana. Deindustrialization, a Euro, Its Causes and Implications. IMF Working Paper. WP 42. PDF. Rothorn, Robert E. Ramasamy, Ramana. Growth, Trade, and Deindustrialization. IMF Staff Papers 46 pages 18 Euro 41. PDF. Sachs, J.D. and Schatz, H.J.A. Euro Trade and Jobs in U.S. Manufacturing, a Euro Unregistered Trademark. Brookings Papers on Economic Activity No. 1, Vicino, Thomas, J. Transforming Race and Class in Suburbia, Decline in Metropolitan Baltimore. New York, Palgrave Macmillan, 2008. Historiography Hi, Stephen. The Wounds of Class, a Euro, a historiographical reflection on the study of deindustrialization, 1973 Euro 2013, History Compass 11 No. 11 pages 994 Euro 1007. On US and UK. DOI, 10.1111/HIC 3.12099. External links. The Qualitative Shift in European Integration, Towards Permanent Wage Pressures and a Euro Latin Americanization, a Euro Unregistered Trademark of Europe. Eric S. Reinert, Deindustrialization in Sub-Saharan Africa, Myth or Crisis?